This is Front Up on GenoTV.com and Channel 99. I'm Dan Drake, and our guest is Peter Brace. Peter is an author and a member of the political establishment now, and does a number of other things that are very interesting. And I want to talk about your writing, and I want to talk about the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board. But first, how long have you been on Nantucket?
I've been on Nantucket since, you want the whole thing or the short answer?
When did you come to Nantucket?
Well, I came
when did you come to live?
Oh, I came to live was, well, I'll just say that I was here in '92, around this time. I was here for about 3 years, and I left and went to Jackson Hole for 2 years and came back, and then I came really to live in '96.
Okay. So you've been here pretty much for 20 years, and certainly for 17 or 18.
That's right.
It hasn't been easy for you, I know. We've known each other for quite a while now.
Yep.
You've been a writer, a reporter for 2 newspapers that didn't make it, and you've done a lot of other things, but obviously there's something about Nantucket that keeps you here and appeals to you. What is it?
Well, just let me comment on the papers not making it. It's one thing to get a job at a paper that's been established and been around forever, and the Inquirer Mirror has been here since 1821. Boston Globe, Providence Journal, Cape Cod Times. It's a whole nother ball of wax when you get a job at a paper that's just starting out, or one that's been going for a little while, and a much bigger spirit and a lot more fun, and the learning and the underdog of it all. Thoroughly enjoyed that. So it's hasn't been that hard, maybe. But say the question again?
I mean, what is it about Nantucket that keeps you here and keeps you interested and makes you find things to do that enable you to live here and so on? What's the appeal?
Well, I don't know. I gave up trying to find a I gave up a long time ago being guided by a career only. And I've lucked out in that I've learned to write out here mostly, and that's taken me lots of directions. But that's not the only thing in life. It's kind of like my mother says. She reminds me how important the community is out here, how tight we all are, how good friends we all are, and that keeps me here. That keeps me here. That's what scares the crap, makes me get scared about leaving if I ever did, is starting all over somewhere. So that one thing, that community feel, that knowing everybody, even though sometimes you don't want to know somebody, don't want to run into them. It makes everything possible. It creates a whole group of people working and doing things that they probably wouldn't do on the mainland to stay here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I've done a lot of those things.
Now you have a new partner in crime, Kismet, who's sitting there next to you.
Yep.
And I think, Gino, you got a shot of her, rather, didn't you? Yeah. So that's another reason to show her your favorite island.
A lot of people said, that I'm a perfect person for a dog, but it really is a big responsibility getting a dog. You don't think about it until you get her or him. But every day you're thinking about that living creature, that creature who has feelings and her happiness, and so yeah.
And who is dependent.
And who's lately every day kind of pissed at me because during the period of writing my book, my latest book, I was getting up every day at 6 to walk her, and we'd walk for anywhere from 2 to 5 miles a day, and she'd sleep most of the day. And lately I've had some physical limitations, strained my Achilles tendon and plantar fasciitis in my left foot, and so that's been limiting me from walks. So.
Your walks got you into writing other than reporting, right?
Right.
And your first book was a book about walking Nantucket.
Yes.
That came out about, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
Came out in 2004, April 2004.
And then your more recent effort is Nantucket, A Natural History, which was published last summer, and which I think is a great read. And actually, I was thinking about a friend of mine I want to send it to who would love it, but it's... Tell me how you got into this. What sort of things got you started on writing this book?
Well, the basis of it was obviously my environmental reporting for both papers, The Beacon and The Independent. When I got to The Beacon in '92, the then editor, Kurt Mayer, gave me a choice between being the environmental writer or the county town reporter. And I said, the environment.
I can't imagine why he made that choice.
Well, the thing is, it was kind of a big lie, because yes, you're the environmental reporter, but unfortunately you're going to be covering a lot of town stuff anyway. But that's all right when it had the environmental bent to it. And so I went along and I made, lots of connections with people, all the conservation organizations, the Conservation Commission, people off island in state positions, and then the Independent came along in 2003, and I had the same job, and they did that for 7 years. And I produced my first book based on a series I did in the Beacon, which was called Walking the Walks. So that got me further out into the wild, and as you're going along, you've got to ask questions, you've got to know what you're doing.
I just wanted to read to you the very last sentence of the epilogue of your book, because I think it tells a lot sort of about what you have talked about in the book. The sentence is, in short, with reverence and respect, engage Nantucket, Tuckernuck, and Muskeget as if you had just 1 year to live here. See it all and do it all.
Yeah.
That's about the transient nature of the island we live on, is it not?
Yes, it is. And if you have just a weekend, you're going to scratch the surface. And if you're a dedicated ecotourist, then you're going to come here and do as much as you can. But if you read the book beforehand, then you have a sense of it. Then you can go and figure out the places you want to see, the birds, the salt marshes, the
grass plains, whatever it might be.
Sandplain, grass plain, the tidal ponds, the swamps, look for the kettle holes.
I think it's all there.
It's all there. Yeah.
Let's move on to the Shellfish Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board.
Sure.
You just got involved in that. What is SHAB up to these days? What is sort of on their agenda?
Well, right now we are in the process of we're going to start on Thursday night the sort of a going over of the shellfish. People say the shellfish regulations. I'll get to that. We are going to review the Town Code Chapter 122, the taking of shellfish, for streamlining, for greater efficiency, get out any antiquated language, maybe add some parts to it. We're not sure because we haven't gone through it yet, but we are going to be trying to make those changes, if any, which will not take place. Are you listening to me, everybody out there? Not take effect until next season, if not the following season.
And do have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Since it's a bylaw, it's a town meeting. I mean, if it says bylaw, I don't think the selectmen can. Right. It's not a regulation like it is a state regulation. Okay. It's the way I understand it, but I could be completely wrong. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Will this relate to enforcement as well as? It's
being driven largely by the new head of the Marine Department, the Chief of Police, Chief Pittman, and making some things simpler, trying to make it more uniform across all the regulations.
I also understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's some sense that the chief has that perhaps some of the methods of penalizing fishermen who have broken the regulations need to be revised.
They just want to have a hearing process for people. They don't want to just have that be a one person in an office saying you will have 5 days off and that's that. They want to, give the fishermen a chance to speak for themselves and say this was the situation, and there are possible changes to.
Is that something you're going to be looking at as part of your review of the bylaw?
Yep.
Okay. What else is on the agenda for that at the moment? Anything interesting?
God, you had to ask me that. You had to ask me that after we had the shortest meeting of,
okay,
for forever. But God, I'm drawing a blank now.
How's the scallop season looking?
Last night, Sheila Lucy, who is the Marine Superintendent, the Harbor Master, reported around 15,000 bushels have been harvested so far. There are about 30 boats still going. How
does that relate to this time last year, did she say?
Smitty called up a number that said on January 22nd of last year there were 14,000 bushels harvested.
So it's roughly the same as last year.
Roughly the same. But last year Last year we didn't have the ice. We had that really warm winter, and this year, we've had a lot of ice. Sheila thinks that we've lost about a week solid of fishing.
Okay. With the temperatures and ice.
Yep. Thankfully, we haven't had any incidents with boats. She's concerned about people, driving up on the ice or getting lifted up by flows. So
before we run out of time here, one of the things I wanted to talk about very briefly was the Blue Pages. This is a publication from Martha's Vineyard. I understand you were working on a similar document for Nantucket.
Yes, I am.
What is this intended to be?
It's intended to be, like it says right on the front, a guide to protecting Martha's Vineyard waters, but only Nantucket's waters. So it's a consumer level, homeowner, property owner, the average citizen, teaching them about, how much fertilizer to use, if any at all. Planting native vegetation where you need it, protecting your coastal bluff, basically protecting the water quality in our harbors, our ponds, our groundwater.
So it applies to boaters as well as to homeowners and so forth. Who's sponsoring this and who's publishing it?
The Harbor Plan Implementation Committee, which had been charged with, like it says, implementing the Harbor Plan. One of the 92 recommendations was to produce this document. So they are. I was picked up by the chairman and Sarah Okai, who thought that I would do a good job of this with my, I guess, unique knowledge of the island and abilities. And so it's. I believe it's going to be sponsored by the UMass Field Station or University of Massachusetts at Boston. I think the Land Council will contribute, as well as Remain Nantucket, and there may be others.
And what's the timetable for the publication?
We want to have it out by springtime, and I'm more than halfway through it. So, and just to give you an idea of how it worked, each one of the members of the committee was assigned a chapter, and were to hand me their materials of what they thought belonged in the chapter, as well as the Land Council and the Nantucket New School to give me the chapters. Then we got a license from the organization that is the Blue Pages, which was originally founded by a guy named James Kolb in Seattle, Washington State, who did the original Blue Pages called the Puget Sound Pages. We paid a license fee. That gave us a license to use any text, any photos, any drawings from any of them done till now. So what I'm doing is producing a hybrid of those, of what's in those books, and then what people give me.
How many have been done?
I think about, there's the Vineyards, there's Orleans, Mashpee, a couple on Long Island, a couple.
So maybe a dozen or so?
Maybe a little over a dozen, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, Peter, thank you. Again, Peter's book, Nantucket and Natural History, and I guess the prior book, the Walking Tour book, is still available as well.
Yep.
And for anybody who is interested in Nantucket and its environment and its sustainability, these are must-reads. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.